All right, hello, welcome into the 8Sports Blitz Great Eight Rankings. Week 2 of the high school football season's already here. Nolan Knight joined by Madeline Frentress. Madeline, got your first taste of a little VHSL football. How was it out at at Huguenot, who were playing St. Christopher's? That was our week 1 game of the week.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent here in Central Virginia. I mean, it's just,
especially at that game specifically.
Yeah, both sides of the ball. I mean, golly, and the upset that St. Chris, I mean, Huguenot hadn't lost a game at home in over 2 years, is what I'm told. And St. Chris to come in there and beat them, like shut them out in really the first half. It was a really good game, and I think both of these teams could go far. Huguenot's going to have to bounce back, obviously, but
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You know, they just have so much talent on that roster, right? I mean, so many guys have offers to Power 5 schools, and then they were taking on St. Christopher's, who obviously has one of the best players in the country in Darius Gray. But he's an offensive lineman. You never really know how much impact a guy like that can have in your team. But I think that kind of told all of us that, hey, we have a lot more talent on this roster than just Darius Gray. And they proved that on Friday night. Speaking of, how about we just dive into this thing and check out Madeline's recap from Friday night.
Friday night lights of the season. It was an all-Richmond private versus public school battle as the St. Christopher Saints and the Huguenot Falcons both looked to start their season off 1-0, but ultimately it would be the Saints defense who was the star of the show tonight.
First quarter and the Saints are driving and the Falcons make a big hit on third down to get the ball back. Then we go to a Falcons drive, a handoff that's immediately shut down by St. Chris. Huguenot's up again. Quarterback Charles Scott airs one out, but it's intercepted by St. Christopher's Elijah Brandon, who takes it all the way to the house, making it 7-0 Saints, and that's how the first half would end. The Saints would put another 6 on the board early in the third quarter, putting them up 14-0. Then just a couple minutes later, they do it again. St. Christopher's in the red zone, and it's Aiden White who runs it up the middle for 6. An extra point is good, making this one 21-0. The Falcons did put a touchdown drive together late in the third, but it just wasn't enough, making the final score of this one 21-6.
We are here with our game of the week, week 1 winning head coach, Lance Cleland of the St. Christopher Saints. Coach, big win for you guys tonight. Your defense shut out the Falcons in the first half. What do you attribute that to?
Just a great group of young men who come to practice every day. They work super hard. They believe in what we're doing. We work on a lot of the fundamentals, tackling, getting off blocks, blocking, and I'm just super proud of their efforts being paid off tonight.
That'll wrap things up here at Huguenot High School for our 8Sports Blitz game of the week as the Saints hand the Falcons their first loss at home in 2 years. Reporting for 8Sports Blitz at Huguenot High School, I'm Madeline Frentress.
All right, there we go. Week 1 in the books, kind of put some of our thoughts aside. A lot of our games this week were on Thursday night, which is kind of actually normal for around here with Labor Day weekend and stuff. I think some teams, push that game up. They're able to, and then it also gives them 8 days to prepare for that first, week 1 game as well. But that was by far the biggest storyline of the week. I'm glad we made it our game of the week. I think it was a really good matchup. Yeah. And we got a pretty exciting matchup coming up next week as well. Glen Allen will be hosting Manchester. That game's at Glen Allen, right? This upcoming Friday. That's going to be our game of the week. There's a lot of excitement about that game. Both teams last week were ranked in our rankings, and this week you were able to talk with both coaches. What's kind of the mindset maybe of these coaches as they both prepare for what will kind of be a playoff type atmosphere at Glen Allen?
Yeah, exactly. I talked to, both Coach Harrell and Coach Sexton today. Both of these coaches seem super confident going in. I mean, obviously they started the season 1-0, and that's got to do something for the team's confidence. I think that Manchester is preparing for Ralphie Puccinelli on Glen Allen's side. He was able to get in the end zone twice with his legs, once in the air last week. And then, of course, at Manchester, 83-13. I mean, that's got to be one of the highest point differdifferentials I've ever heard in a high school football game.
And it was a lot of points for Manchester early.
Yeah. So, I mean, Glen Allen's just going to have to prepare for that type of offense to be able to score that many points. And then, I mean, obviously the defense too, to hold them to only 13. I mean, that's it's complimentary football if I've ever seen it. So
yeah, a lot of excitement around that matchup. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at our new 8Sports Blitz Elite 8 Week 2 rankings. And as you see here, both of those teams that are in our game of the week, they're both ranked inside our top 8. Glen Allen comes in at 5th and Manchester 6th. Let's take this thing from the bottom to the... Oh, actually, we'll go top to bottom. Varina 1-0, went on the road last week to William Fleming. Fleming's normally a playoff team out of Roanoke, and they took care of them as we kind of expected them to, 41-14. Benedictine went on the road, or rather they were at home, a shutout victory over St. Michael's. That, of course, is the same team that they beat for the VISAA championship a year ago. So they dismantled the state runner-up from a year ago. They remain at number 2. I did move up Highland Springs to number 3 after they were ranked 4 last week. And that's not a diss to Dinwiddie by any means. It's more so Hopewell has some athletes on that team, and they made that game look very easy. That game was up 35-0 in the first quarter. I mean, I think Highland Springs only touched the ball 3 times, and they were up 35-0 on offense. That's how impressive they were, scoring on offense and defense in that matchup. 68-12 over Hopewell. Dinwiddie comes in after going on the road to Colonial Heights and having no problems. They were expected to probably win that game in this manner, 53-7. Glen Allen moved up after they got a lopsided win over Prince George last week, 42-6. And of course, they moved up because Huguenot moved down following that loss to St. Christopher's. Coming at number 6, Manchester. It's almost a surprise that they're not ranked higher after what we saw them do to Monacan. And Monacan's got a good football team. They actually have a lot of talent from last year's team that was right there on the cusp of making the playoffs. And they made it look easy. The problem is, though, everyone ranked inside of the top 5 is a really good football team. Trinity, they're ranked 7th after they were 8th last week, moving up 1 spot. Took care of a really good North Cross team on the road, I should say, 36-28. And then, of course, St. Christopher's comes in, gets a big upset win over Huguenot, one of the most talented teams in the area in terms of just pure, skill positions and guys committed to places, 21-6. And then a couple of honorable mentions for you. Hermitage steps in after they dismantled Matoaka, who was one of our honorable mention teams from last week. Thomas Dale remains in that list. Huguenot moves into it after their loss. I still think they're going to have a pretty good season. Louisa County took care of business at Mills Godwin this week. And then Midlothian shut out LC Bird, who, of course, was in the state semifinals a year ago. Yes, they lost a lot of talent. That LC Bird team, though, they're going to win some football games this year. Midlothian made it look easy as well. So there you have it. Our 8Sports Blitz Elite 8 Week 2 rankings. Varina, Benedictine, Highland Springs, Dinwiddie, Glen Allen, Manchester, Trinity, and St. Christopher's. So there you have it. Week 2 rankings in the books. This past weekend, Virginia Tech, they fall to South Carolina on Sunday. And then Virginia looked really good against Coastal Carolina. Any takeaways from the college football weekend?
Yeah, Virginia Tech, I just got to hand it to, their defense. Lenore Sellers, he's going to be, he's a Heisman candidate, caliber quarterback, and I felt like in the first half, there was a game there.
Oh, yeah.
There was a chance to win that game.
They had a lot of chances to win that game.
And I felt like their defense did a really good job in the first half. Now, obviously, they kind of let it go there at the end. And as for UVA, what a way to start a season. I think they have a really easy or, manageable schedule coming up here, and to win this game in the way that they did, I think the final score was 42-7.
That sounds right.
Something along those lines. To play that type of complete football game, I think Tony Elliott should be really proud of the guys moving forward, and I think they could. Like we said in our UVA special, I'm thinking 6 or 7 wins this season, and I think they're off to a great start.
I think I have to agree with you. Both teams, after this week, I kind of feel better about. Virginia Tech obviously lost, but it was pretty bleak going into the season for Virginia Tech, and it kind of this cloud that's kind of hovered over their season after the way last year went and how much expectations they had.
And that's a good South Carolina team.
Yeah, and the defense played really well. The offense was able to move the ball. Obviously, they never got into the end zone, which I feel like is something that, once they score once, I think it could come in bunches. We'll see if they're able to do it on Saturday night, 7:30 under the lights at Lane Stadium. Vanderbilt's coming to town. That's a team they lost to last year. Diego Pavia kind of had a coming out party versus Virginia Tech, and then next week went on to beat number 1 Alabama and kind of got his name all over the place. Everyone knows that guy. He's coming into Blacksburg. Hokies are very I think they're like a 1 point favorite in the game, 0.5. It's basically a pick 'em between Vanderbilt and Virginia Tech. It'll be interesting to see if the Hokies can knock off Vanderbilt. I think that'd be a huge step in the right directions in terms of the expectations and really just the I don't know if hype's the right word, but kind of the thought, the excitement level or even for the team, right? Because, anytime you lose, it's not going to be good. And for Virginia, how do you take that success and not get too confident with it? Going on the road to North Carolina State, who I think is going to be a competitor in the ACC. It is a non-conference game, despite the fact that they're both ACC opponents. They wanted to schedule that because since Dave Dorian's been there, I think he's been there like close to 10 years now. They've only played each other 3 times. And the fact they're in the same conference, only 2 hours separate the schools, it's going to be a cool matchup. I think it's an interesting non-conference matchup, but that's what's on the docket for the college football slate. And, of course, NFL football begins this Sunday. How are you feeling about your Cowboys?
I don't have expectations. I don't have. I've learned at this point, if you don't have high expectations, you cannot be disappointed. Without Micah Parsons, we don't have much of a defense. Yeah. I'm excited for the offense. I love CeeDee Lamb, and I think the addition of George Pickens is going to be a really interesting duo to watch, especially with Dak Prescott at 100%. So, but that Eagles team, that's just the toughest season opener you can possibly have. Really. So, but how about the Commanders?
Yeah, we'll see what they can do.
They've got Terry back.
I think they're going to be a popular pick in a lot of people's pick'ems this week, taking on the Giants at home, 1 o'clock on Sunday. That Giants team, don't really know what to expect from them with what they have going on over there, but I think it could be a good start to the season for them if they can get that win, and then they got to play Micah Parsons week 2, Thursday Night Football, short week against the Packers, so a quick turnaround for Dan Quinn and company, but an exciting time of year for sure. High school football, we finished with week 1, rolling into week 2, and then college football is finally here, and excited to see what the season brings now that we got the NFL season right here as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's Great 8 Reveal show. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys. Have a good night.